Welcome back, Roftwood. It's me, Zombie GG with the Roftwood Coordination Center, proudly presenting you with another post-apocalyptic production I like to call an RCC Fireside Chat. This episode is part 4 of my most epic discussion with my all-time arch-nemesis and RCC public enemy number 1, Lord Moloch, strike leader for the infamous Ridleybank Resistance Front's Gore Corps necro-terrorist unit. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
But what happened there was obviously on Excursion 3, we started the first tour. I can't remember if it was Excursion 4. In fact, it wasn't Excursion 4 when we took the whole Department of Homeland Security away with us. That was one of the other tours, because I had various different names there. I didn't use Excursion all the time. But we took them away on tour with us. And obviously Ridleybank got retaken, and the few that had stayed behind were like, oh no, Blackmore's been retaken.
Wait, so you just really have that attitude. I always wondered, man, because we fight each other a lot and we don't voice a whole lot for listeners, Lord Moloch and I. This is pretty new for both of us to have this voice chat conversation, but like we kind of noticed when Ridleybank's less populated, and it's like when we launch our little Blackmore raids, it's like I feel like they're almost expecting us to do this shit. Just listening to you right there, your attitude, you totally do. You know when Blackmore's vulnerable and you just don't give a shit.
Yeah,
when
it completely is. My attitude to it is, in the weird way, I'm kind of, as I always say that I'm like the least fun leader. I'm not a particularly fun guy, but in a way I kind of am, because my main concern is always, are my team going to have fun? So my attitude to that was like, okay, the Department of Homeland Security stays there and they stop people from being able to take Blackmore and the buildings around it. Big fucking deal. They're not having any fun. Like they're there looking at ruined buildings all the time. That's no fun. If you guys, and I didn't like make it an order, you have to come with us. I put it out as an offer. Anyone who wants to come, just come. And if it gets retaken, fuck it. We'll take it back when we can be bothered.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a prime example of my attitude towards Blackmore and actually Ridleybank, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not overly concerned about defending Ridleybank. I've always been more concerned about the Horde as players and as people. If you want my attitude as strike leader and Papa, so strike leader now, Papa then, my attitude towards the defense of Ridleybank can be summed up from the last time you and Roftwood Elite attacked Ridleybank. You messaged me on Discord, and my response was basically, yeah, have fun, because we were already going to Kyger. And I didn't give a shit. I wasn't bringing my team back because there was going to be more fun in Kyger. That was it. So yeah, basically what happened, I took if we go back to the timeline there, so I'd taken them all away, and some of them had stayed because it was only an invitation to DOHS, they didn't have to come. Some of them stayed, and they got really antsy when Blackmore was retaken. And I kept us roaming around for a few weeks, and I was like, okay, we should probably go back and sort of tidy up a bit. So we basically blitzed straight through Nichols Mall, Blackmore, the whole lot. But what happened was the kilt store, specifically kilt store owner and a bunch of guys supporting him, put out the word to a load of people. So suddenly when they retook, because some of the teams were slower coming up than the Gore Corps and Team America were, we couldn't cover everything. So a bunch of survivors, and when I say a bunch of survivors, I'm talking about 200-300. So we wound up with a really difficult situation, which became the Battle of Barhopolis. Once the team were all together, we were able to consistently ruin Blackmore and the Web building, but we couldn't really take Nichols Mall, because by that stage, across Blackmore, Went, and Nichols Mall at any given time, there would be 700 people in there.
Damn.
Yeah, and that became a really difficult situation. This is probably the second most stressful time for me. Not so much because it was a hard battle, but because something else came up, which was a few months before Gulina had left the RRF to become like a pro survivor because she wanted to change, and we caught her zerging, which, considering like she's someone who I've been friendly with for a long time, and she was my mentor in the RRF and the person most directly responsible for me becoming the Papa, that was a massive shock to me, but we caught her and we reported her, and it turned into a massive political row that I had to deal with as someone who still classed himself as close to her. What happened was we caught her zerging against us. So we had a difficult situation because on the one hand, she's a zerger. On the other hand, she wasn't a part of the RRF, so it's a different situation at that stage. If someone's a zerger in the RRF, like we straight up catch them using 2 alts to support RRF terms, it's a very easy move. We literally just publicly
pants
throw
them, right?
Yeah, that's
I love
our
that
term.
expression. I stole that from you, but we adopted the same policy. Just fucking pants them and get them out.
Yeah. So, except you probably have a different idea of what pantsing is. In our case, it's making them wear pants because the zombies of the RRF don't wear pants.
Oh my god, I did not think about it like that.
You didn't know? Did you?
No, because like I don't know.
That's
okay,
when we to the history, I'll go into
that's
that
hilarious.
as well.
Okay, I get it now, but I totally saw it the other way, and it was equally embarrassing. But on my version, it's hilarious.
So basically, pantsing with us means you are publicly in disgrace and thrown out of the horde. But the problem was she wasn't actually in the horde at the time, so it was a really hard situation for me. So initially, what we did was we told her, look, we know you're fucking zerging. You need to cut this shit out. And it got leaked from the War Council, and that meant, well, at this stage, I can't keep the gloves on anymore. I've got to report her. So I reported her. That became a massive clusterfuck, but it was dealt with. She was listed. She eventually left the game. She doesn't have very many good things to say about me anymore, put it that way. Maybe that's changed over the course of 10 years, but I doubt it. But yeah, that's a bit Shakespearean, but I wound up having to expose my mentor as a cheat. And then at the end of that siege, the way that siege ended was that the mega horde Lu came back, and they'd always had good terms with the RRF, and one of them popped by and said, you know, we're bringing back the horde, we're all starting out with level 1s. And I'm like, we could really use your fucking help here, guys. Any chance you'd be able to stop by Nichols Mall with us? And Malcav, I think it was, who was the leader at the time, was basically said, fuck yeah. Like 3 days later, they joined us on a Friday night strike with the Team America and the Gore Corps, and we emptied about 500 to 600 people out of Nichols Mall in 12 hours, and that was the end of the battle.
So Lue, L-U-E?
Yeah.
I remember them a little bit. I remember they're terrifying, and they popped up real quick. I don't remember what they stand for, though. Do you remember the acronym?
Life, Universe, and Everything. It's a forum on I forget what the website it was. I think it might be. Oh god, it's.
I don't think it's something awful. I think that was the Dead.
Yeah, the Dead is something awful. Lou is from. I forget, but it's another one of the big old school forums. It's not something awful, but it's another one of them.
Dude, I'm just eating up this old school chat. So all within your first year of being Papa, you have to like overthrow.
Basically, what happened? The first year was essentially I have a big military victory at Ackland, then I fight off a coup, then Team America comes through, and I get a flood of really good, passionate, fun new players come in, which was lucky on my part. I did nothing to recruit them aside from sprucing up the wiki. That was pretty much it. It just so happened that they were attracted to the success of us, and that helped that grow. I changed the methodology and the structure of the RRF so it became one cohesive unit with several strike times and styles. And then we had the big siege. And then after that, it was pretty much smooth sailing until I stepped down. There wasn't really a huge amount of controversy after Gulina and the Battle of Barhopolis.
So what time do you think you stepped down now? I'm just all about trying to figure out dates.
As I recall, I stepped down as Papa. In fact, I can find it. I've got it on my computer because I screenshotted all the old... I went on Wayback Machine and found all of the old public RRF threads, including my retirement thread and my speech thread, which I can pass to you for your use on the video if you want. If you want
Dude,
to like
that'd be so cool.
No worries. Let me just dig that up, and I'll be able to get you an exact time for it.
The history of this game is so rich.
There it is, Baja backups. Let me just go there. I think it was about September 2009 I retired. At that stage, I was by far the longest serving Papa. I lasted about 20 months, which was by a mile the longest serving Papa of all time at that stage. I think the longest before that had lasted about 9. But after that, I was just worn out.
Yeah, dude, it gets wearing trying to orchestrate all that stuff and keep everything flowing and stuff.
And then with 180 people dependent on you.
Oh man, that scale too. But I'm just wondering, did you like find a successor?
Yeah. Something that I did, which I don't think any other Papas had managed before, was I actually had a line of succession below me. So when I resigned, I appointed Johnny Bass as Papa.
Oh man, it's so crazy, these names. I deal with them all the time, but I never knew that they're so deep in history. Yeah. Like Cthulhu and Lingerie.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there, a lot of friendships. So we had Johnny Bass in place, who was the obvious immediate first choice to become new leader because he was very popular with the kids in Team America because he's a really likable guy. Very notorious for coming on IRC while drunk, so he was known as Papa Drunk Bass for quite a long time. Because he would be shit-faced on IRC and he would say all kinds of stupid shit.
Just having a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a nice guy. And he's actually one of the reasons why I reformed everything, but I'm skipping ahead slightly there. And behind him, we also had Globule 13, who was Johnny's successor when real life bit Johnny. And it was after my line of succession ran out, which was after Globule, things started to go a bit wrong with the Horde. And the work that we'd done started to unravel a bit. But yeah, as far as my reign goes, it was a dramatic, sometimes stressful 20-month undefeated run that came very close to having 1 defeat in it. Some big battles, lots of big rivalries. I had the pleasure of killing most of the famous names out there, including like Ron Burgundy, Dick Hole Guy, Christie of the Dead.
Okay, you remember Ron Burgundy? That guy is like my mentor. I never really hung out with him or talked with him personally, but I subscribed to his stuff on the wiki, and I play the game very kind of tactically, like I said, is my primary style, but like I have a super appreciation for the dudes who bring the culture to the game, and Ron Burgundy to me was like, I don't know how good he was tactically, but man, that guy could get a following as Survivors.
Well, what I would say is that Ron Burgundy and Petroshko, the founder of the RF, are the 2 defining characters of Urban Dead by a mile. No one else comes close to either of those 2, and without those 2, the game probably wouldn't exist to this day.
What was that survivor you said when you were actually a survivor and you shot a Gore corpse guy? You said that guy was a pretty cool survivor?
Sexy Rexy Grossman. He's the closest I ever saw to a Ron Burgundy figure. Charismatic, very talented, great tactical brain, and told a really good story and was also fun. Like I said, he had this ongoing flirtation with Gulino over the radio where they'd be doing it like a radio phone-in where they'd be like dedicating songs to each other over the radio. And this while he's leading the biggest siege that the game had seen since the 3rd siege of Kyger Mall. So he was fantastic, but Ron Burgundy is the guy who set the template for Survivor leadership, and Petrosko's the man who set the template for zombie leadership.
Petrosko. Okay, so I'm not done with your retirement stuff yet. I want to hear more about some of your like rivalries, allies, and battles. Because if you knew like Ron Burgundy, then I bet you knew some other cool people back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't really know Ron Burgundy because he kind of faded out of the game quite a bit by that stage. But he popped back up one day when I was like roaming through Sheerbank on one of my little terrorist tours, and spotted him, and it's like, that's Ron Burgundy. Is it Ron Burgundy? Okay, let me just check. I've got to click on his name to make sure there's no like fucking symbol or punctuation that's being used, or some lowercase letter that's being used in the wrong place to create a Ron Burgundy for them. And then I saw the game join date, and I'm like, that is Ron fucking Burgundy. So I killed him.
Oh my gosh, that screenshot is worth money. I'll pay $1 for it.
I'd want more than $1. I didn't take a screenshot.
Moloch kills Ron Burgundy.
Absolutely, and I uploaded it to IRC, and everyone was like, nah, that can't be the real Ron Burgundy. And I sent them his profile link, because they didn't have the profile database back then. So if you didn't see the person in the game, you didn't have their profile link. That was just the way it was.
Yeah, you got like kill confirmed by posting the profile link.
Basically, yeah. And everyone was quite jealous because they wanted to be the ones that got him. Like, I fucking got him. The weird thing about the RRF is that a lot of, and I mentioned this to you when we had one of our private chats a while ago, is that some of our rivals were actually also in the RRF. For example, Sexy Rexy Grossman joined us for a little while, around about the same time I did. He didn't join the Gore Corps because he felt that would be a little bit too on the nose with the whole flirtation with Gulina thing, so he just joined Group Zero. Great stuff. He was around for a couple of months and then sort of faded out. I think that he faded out of the game entirely just because it was a bit sort of after the Lord Mayor show, like how can you follow up the Battle of Samplerville? It's like, it's the same reason why I'd imagine like rock stars do cocaine. Like how the fuck do you go on with normal life after you've been on the stage? So he kind of faded out after that. But we had guys like the leader of the Molten Rangers was one of my top guys when I was leading the Gore Corps.
Who was that? Do you remember?
Lord Wolfgar.
Interesting. I love that group. I never knew who the leader was.
Yeah, Lord Wolfgar and Sexual Harrison were the two main guys there. Yeah, and they were both in the Gore Corps. But yeah, they were both really reliable guys. Golam kind of pissed people off quite a bit, but I liked
So you had rivalries and alliances, kind of?
They would join in with us because once people fought against us, they would realise that we're actually kind of fun. So we'd pick up a fair amount of rivalries, and because of my character, what would happen is I'd get into argument with people on forums, and then they'd give me shit in PM, and I'd give them shit back, and it would eventually turn into like a civil conversation, and we realised we actually got along quite well. Like several survivor leaders wound up being like sort of, I wouldn't say close friends, but like by Urban Dead standards, quite close friends, if you know what I mean, people who we chat with a lot.
Adversary, is that an appropriate word, maybe?
No, so I mean, they were kind of adversaries, but we weren't running into each other that much. It was just that we were involved in the meta politics. So some of them I got along really well with eventually, like Lacrima from Ghetto Cal and Christie of the Dead, who was the chairwoman of the entire DEM.
Damn, I had no idea. I gotta do a DEM series.
Christie of the Dead is probably the seminal DEM character, but you'll have a hard time getting hold of her now because she hasn't been in the game for a very long time.
So you interacted with this legend, though?
Yeah, we actually, our first interaction was a blazing argument in DMs because I caught one of her guys zerging, and I made the public report because that's just how Zerg reporting works. You don't go and ask permission from their fucking leader to do it, you just do it, so they don't have time to cover it up. And she got into a massive argument with me about it, and I'm not someone who, if you pick an argument with me, I back down. I was really fucking nasty back.
You just go overkill because it's just like, especially if it's something so stupid as covering up a Zerg, you know, it's like, dude, don't even try to build a war out of this. This is just, you got no ground to stand on. See ya. Boom.
Okay, so what was happening was she wasn't really trying to cover up for a Zerg. She just felt that she was due the respect to be told it. And I didn't feel that was the case because I was a Zerg hunter, and it's like, I don't owe you anything. You should have caught this person yourself.
I want the listeners to understand, you have a meta role as well as a Zerg hunter.
Okay, so if we take a moment, then I'll just sort of outline my three sort of most famous roles in
This will just be a quick tangent, and we'll go back to the narrative. I'm sorry, folks, but this is super important, and I respect it a ton, and I want this to get some limelight.
Okay, so my main role, obviously, the one everyone knows, Lord Moloch of the Gore Corps, and the RRF, obviously. The second most famous is probably the Huntsman and Caesar Augustus. So the Huntsman was my forum name on the Resensitized forum where the Urban Dead Zerg list was maintained, and Caesar Augustus was my Zerg hunter character. So I was pretty well known for that. I kind of revitalized the Zerg list and Zerg hunting as a sport for a while, for like 2 years there, even after I'd retired as Papa of the RF.
As a sport, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and as an organization basically devoted to keeping cheats down, I managed to like kickstart that again because it had kind of gone off the ball for a while. The Zerg list was still active and people were reporting them, but no one was killing them, and I managed to get that back on the map. So I have the most official confirmed Zerg kills in the history of the game, which is 1,000. I retired on 1,000 Zerg kills. And the last one that I have is probably the most controversial if you actually know about this semi-well-known PKR team, I was Unhappy Disgusting Wow, the leader of Columbine Kids. So there's that as well. But yeah, those are my 3 main roles.
I love Caesar Augustus Zerg Hunter. Like, I've heard of bounty hunting as a sport for some folks, like going after the PKer folks on the Rogues Gallery. But like, I haven't heard of Zerg hunting as a sport. That adds such a cool twist to it.
There are actually quite a few sports, so we'll come back to that when we do a bit more.
Okay, but that was a cool tangent. So you, Christy of the Dead got mad at you because she felt she got owed a talking to before you guys just exposed some Zergs within the DEM. Is that what's up?
Exactly. So that turned into a big argument between us. It went on for a few months. We didn't so much argue, but there was like a cold war. And unofficially speaking, there was a rule within the Gore Corps that if you saw DEM in a building, they died first.
Oh, that's fucking good.
But anytime we saw DEM, we would kill them first, because it wasn't just like a personal thing about me and Christy, but there was also, they used an internal game auto scouter called Demon, which would scout and upload information about buildings to a central database, irrespective of what alt you were using. So it was really, as far as we were concerned, a form of alt abuse, because you would have like 3 alts or more contributing to this database that the DEM were using. So essentially all of your alts were working for the DEM. So if you had 8 alts, you would have 8 alts helping the DEM scout. And we considered that massive alt abuse, so we would kill them as a matter of course. But then what happened actually was, in the end, once we sort of broke through that initial argument, me and Christy got along really well. And she started her own little zombie group, and I was a big supporter of that, and I gave her a lot of tips on how to make that successful. And she gave me a lot of assistance when there was some controversy around me when I was, and this might lead into a tangent, so we'll come back to that later on, but she supported me in an issue that came up while I was still Papa. But so there weren't a huge number of rivalries. The main rivalry I'd say that we had was with Kilt Store, who you highlighted earlier. Kilt Store owner was someone who was definitely kill on sight to us. He was a very effective leader. He was the figurehead of the survivor side of the Battle of Barhopolis, and he's still on my contact list. So if he ever comes back, I am still going to kill him.
Did you see that he came back like 9 months ago, but he couldn't remember his password, so he had a 0 in his account? I really do think it was him.
Yeah, it was him. I've got both accounts contact listed, and if I see him, I'll kill him.
I don't know, whatever, it's a sad story. Anyway, yeah, Kilt Store is awesome, folks, and it's cool. I didn't know that the actual guy was involved in such a battle. I knew he had the prestige, but I didn't know where it came from, so the Battle of Barhopolis really kind of gave the Kilt Store a big prestige boost.
Yeah, what I would say about Kilt Store owner is that I want to kill him so much, even now, that tells you how good he was as an adversary. The fact that we're talking 12 years on, and if I see him, I still consider it a priority to murder him.
What was it that got them to be that way to you?
They're the figurehead for the Battle of Barhopolis, which is the closest I ever came to losing a siege.
Damn.
So he was of that, yeah. He was to me as Sexy Rexy Grossman probably was to Murray J. Suskind.
Damn, cool framework.
So if I see him, he has to die, and it's not because I dislike him; it's because I don't need that problem coming up again.
There you have it, Roftwood. Part 4 of my discussion with Lord Moloch, strike leader for the infamous Ridleybank Resistance Front's Gore Corps necro-terrorist unit. Be sure to catch Part 5 coming soon. This RCC Fireside Chat is a post-apocalyptic production proudly presented to you by the Roftwood Coordination Center. I'm ZombieGG and Roftwood. As always, the pleasure's been mine.